All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope you've enjoyed all the other sessions so far with acuCONNECT. My name is Rosha, and I'm the Solutions Engineering Lead here at Solver. And today I'm going to be walking you through how agile budgeting can truly transform your organization, making planning a little more accurate for you, more collaborative, and more strategic. So, before we get into the meat of it, let me just start with a quick introduction as to who we are. And Solver was founded in 1996, so we've been around for a while. We have our headquarters in California, but we've got offices all across the board and all across the globe. For example, I'm currently in Toronto, and so we've got employees all across the world as well. We're proud to serve thousands of customers across multiple different industries, like you can see here on your screen. We range from construction to distribution and manufacturing, professional services, software as a service, healthcare, and these are just some of the few verticals that we work with. And what's really, setting Solver apart is our AI first extended xFP&A platform. And we'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the presentation. But what we're trying to do here is bring intelligent FP&A analysis to the entire business, not just the finance team. And so when Donna was talking about, we've got a wide variety and range of customers here on the call today, makes me very excited because we're going to see how we can leverage Solver within the organization. We're also recognized as a G2 leader. We're SOC 2 and HIPAA compliant, and we're always a current Acumatica marketplace partner. So with that, let's see what's on the docket for today. So first, I'll share some warning signs around your budget process, just to see, get a good pulse check. Make sure to see if there is any processes that are broken within your budgets and how we can identify those. We'll talk about some budgeting best practices, and we'll talk about how Solver can help with streamlining, modernizing, and transforming the way you budget. So let's start with a quick reality check. Only about 8.5% of construction projects finish on time and on budget. And across industries, we see 20% of large projects experience schedule delays. So why does this happen? Really, the biggest culprits are: one is the lack of a single source of truth. That leads to slow decision making. And with that, there's a heavy reliance on Excel spreadsheets. Manual processes are a huge part of when you're working just with pure Excel, especially for organizations that have to scale and Excel limits you to that. There is a lot of error-prone decisions and data making that's going on behind these Excel spreadsheets. Because of this, of course, we are missing targets. There is time that's getting wasted. It leads to a lot of cost that's associated with it as well. And these aren't just construction problems that we see. These are problems that we see across the board between different industries. So how do you really know if your budget process is broken? And here are some red flags that you can identify as part of that process. So first things, aside from, of course, talking about what we've spoken about so far, heavy reliance on Excel, which leads to broken links. You've got versioning challenges. If you're in an organization where you've gotten to a point where all of these issues that you see under the heavy use of Excel, if you're hitting that as an organization, you know it's time for a change. A lot of the static data within Excel, it doesn't update in real time. Now you've missed a lot of deadlines due to accountability. You've got limited alignment between goals and strategies all of your departments in your organization are working in silos. Maybe there's very little or maybe even manual communication going on. You're emailing back and forth. There's a lot of teams back and forth. And sometimes there's even gamesmanship, right? So the leaders of the organization are padding budgets to protect their own interests. So if any of these are sounding familiar to you, you should know that your process is due for a change. And we're going to talk about some of these budgeting best practices and how we can help you with that. So, like I said, the good news is that you can fix it. So, we'll help you fix this process and really talk about how we can work through this. So, some of the keys to solving issues and really fix your broken annual budget process is to really be prepared to accomplish something that's more agile, more streamlined, more modern. And in today's world, especially after COVID, with everything changing, we really need that agile model so that we can make changes to it on the fly. And some of the best practices really suggest that if you begin your preparations with some clear steps in mind, with a concise order in which they need to be completed, you've got a greater success rate and a higher chance of a successful budget process. So let's start by talking about some key steps here around helping you with your budget process. So the first best practice starts with preparation. So begin early. Communicate your strategies, your timelines. You want to ensure that everyone has access to the right data, right? We've all heard that saying, garbage in, garbage out when it comes to data. So you want to make sure the data is clean, the data is accurate, everyone has access to that right data. The other piece you want to ensure is that you want to empower your managers, your departmental leads with their own financials. You want to keep them updated, not just on the financial reporting piece, but also on the budgeting piece. So any templates that need updates, we want to make sure that we want to be able to get their buy-in and their contribution towards those templates. And of course, we want to forget not to finish our year-end forecast before launching into the new cycle. So we want to make sure that we're completing that process and that step. Within Solver, we've got tools like Process Manager, which make these steps much easier for you to execute. So if you've got a checklist within a tool like Solver where you can assign all of the tasks that need to be completed as part of the budget process, you can hold people accountable to completing all of those steps. They just need to ensure that they're part of that budgeting process, makes it a lot more seamless. Now, once we have our checklist in place, the next step we want to do is to ensure that we're completing our analysis and our forecasting. And of course, in times like this, like I've mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially on the economic side. This is easier said than done. I totally get it, but it is definitely not impossible. So when you take a deeper look at your current performance, you can gain reasonable, accurate, and just initial glimpse into your future by forecasting maybe potential scenarios, performing a fundamental analysis of your organization. And if you're not sure where to start with, as part of this process, here are some of the key best practices that might help you with that piece. So of course, first things first is you want to measure and review your current performance. And that's not just on the finance side. You'll notice here that, you need assessments around headcounts. You need assessments with your sales team, with your marketing team, with your operations department. So again, just being able to tie in all of your teams and your departments all into one performance review. You also have some additional considerations you should make around being able to review what you've done for your prior budgets. That includes all of your drivers and assumptions that you've included for your budgeting processes so far. You can determine exactly what areas of the budget that you've missed in terms of your targets and in terms of achieving those, as well as being able to evaluate any areas of improvement within your budget process. And then finally, we want to be realistic with all this, right? So a lot of times I have clients that talk to me that say, we don't really do forecasting today. Maybe we do it on an ad hoc basis just because it's so manual and so cumbersome. But when we implement a system like Solver, our goal ideally is to get to wanting to forecast every month. And that's a great goal to achieve. But again, in order to be a little bit more realistic, maybe we want to take a crawl, walk, run approach where we say that we want to start off ideally, maybe doing it a couple times a year. Maybe we then move to a quarterly, and then maybe we get into a monthly forecast, right? So we want to be realistic with some of those goals and targets that we set for our organization. And then, of course, in terms of being able to forecast in general, you're able to create as many different versions and scenarios within Solver. And we'll talk a little bit about that piece in the next slide as well. You'll notice the Solver Marketplace piece that's included right here on the slide. And that really includes a range of ready-to-use reports and templates that would help you with some of this analysis and with the forecasting piece. And once you connect to your Acumatica ERP, as well as some of potentially other data sources you'd like to bring into Solver, we provide you a set of pre-built reports and templates that you can use within the first couple days with your data, making your life a little bit easier, aside from all of this other work that you have to do here. All right, the next step here would be to set those strategic goals, right? So once the goals have been set up, this step for me is key as part of my budget process. All the goals should clearly be communicated to the management team. There needs to be special care taken that all managers are on board with all these strategic targets and goals that you set up for the organization. Any feedback that you need to get from all the board members, from the executive teams, that should be taken into account, and there should be willingness to modify those goals as needed, right? And again, there's the reports out of the box that come with Solver for you to be able to help with setting some of those goals out for you, as well as, like I mentioned, creating those different scenarios as part of your goal setting process. So it makes life a little bit easier for you if you want to play around with certain numbers and see how that works with your target set up there. And I think in general too, if management focuses really on how versus what when determining some of these goals and initiatives, I think it just makes the budget process a lot easier. So let's say you've completed all of these steps. You're now ready to begin your annual budget process. And really, there's two approaches that you can take with this. So you've got your top-down approach, which starts with, of course, senior management at that top level, and then working your way down in terms of details from there. Or you've got your bottom-up approach, which is a little more inclusive of all those department managers, their inputs. It also allows for some zero-based budgeting, which is definitely beneficial. And when we go into the demo here of Solver in a second, you're going to notice and see, and I'll show you capabilities to be able to both budget at a granular level, bottom up, as well as doing it, of course, at the GL level, top down, if you like, as well. All right. So with all of these processes, with, of course, agile budgeting that you set in place, your annual budget will really transform into a living strategic tool, right? I know everyone has that idea of the annual budget being the annual budget that you're doing once a year, which is set, which is very true. But again, ideally throughout the process and throughout the year, you're setting up those forecasts for it to be a living, breathing document, really, in a version, really. So some of the key outcomes that really stand out to me as part of this process is one, you have that unified management team with accountability reviews. That's really key. And of course, being aligned, like I mentioned, for those executive plans, both at the micro and the macro level. And then once that's set up, you want to continuously measure performance, right? And you can use some of the KPI tools, some of those pre-built budget reports that Solver provides you to help with some of those targeted KPI tracking. And then, of course, you want to be able to see some of those positive results in your financials, right? At the end of the day, it all boils down to those numbers that need to look good. So you want those KPIs, you want those tangible results within your balance sheet, cash flows, P&Ls, and of course, even your workflow plans as well. So hopefully after this process here, budgeting really shifts from becoming a chore to more of becoming a driver for organizational success. And I'll go right into Solver now and give you a quick demo of how all of this is possible within the Solver tool. So just You'll see that in action. Before we get into that piece, I just quickly want to show you this architecture slide here. And this really talks about how everything comes together into Solver. So you can see our data warehouse, which is at the center and the core of it all, which comes with the solution, with the platform. And on the left-hand side there, we're connecting to all the data that you'd like to pull in into Solver. And that could just be your Acumatica ERP. It could also be a CRM system you might be using. It might be an industry-specific system that you might use, your HR system, or really even just an Excel or a CSV file. And once all that data is brought in into the Solver's data warehouse, you've got those four core pillars that you can work with. So you've got the planning piece there for budgeting and forecasting. You've got your reporting in there for any analysis and operational or financial reporting. And then you've got consolidations as well if you are an organization that are dealing with multiple different locations and entities, and you might be looking to build consolidated budgets as well as reports. So with that, I'm going to switch my screens here. And I'm going to just turn off my video here for the demo piece just to save some bandwidth. And I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen here. All right. So here we should be able to see Solver's homepage pulled up, and we're a cloud-based platform. And once you log into the portal here on the left-hand side, you're going to notice our navigation pane, which really breaks it out into those two major components around being able to create your budgets, perform your forecasts, distribute them through our workflow process, as well as build reports for some of those results that you might be looking to see after the fact. So once all of our data within Solver has been connected, I'm going to go right here under the input template section. And this is where you're going to house all of those budget templates that you're going to build within the Solver platform. And as I mentioned, they can be granular level detail, which is outside of the GL, and it could also be GL level budgeting that you can perform. So we're going to take a look at one example for each of those areas so you can understand how everything ties together. And I'm going to go into this payroll model here real quick. And this model here is one of the most granular budgets you can perform within Solver. And the intent behind this is to be able to grab that information from any payroll system that you're using today. You're going to be able to see within my form here that I'm grabbing in all of my employees. I'm grabbing in some values and attributes that I want to see specifically for those employees. And if I keep scrolling here to the right, I can see that it's calculating different areas like salaries. I've got my compensation. I potentially might want to add some taxes as part of this. And I've got some rates set up here already for my taxes. So I've already set up my drivers and assumptions needed in order to budget specifically for this particular area of the business. Of course, payroll being a pretty big expense for most people, everyone usually likes to do it at this level of granularity. And I can use any forms here that I'm creating in Solver to automatically and come in and budget within the form itself. So I can show you a quick example here. If I were to hire someone here new in April, for example, and I put in a salary amount, you'll see that puts in that budgeted placeholder for that employee with calculations starting here in April based on the hire month. And as and when I'm doing my budgets, I'm going to save these directly here in Solver, which means it's giving me that visibility into being able to see what my budgets are at a holistic point of view. If I want to scroll here to the bottom, I can see those exact GL accounts that it's hitting, so I know what to expect within my P&Ls, within my balance sheets, depending on what area of the budget I'm focusing on here. And within my parameters here at the top, I've applied certain filters to this budget and these filters could change over time. So you can specify within the Solver tool in terms of exactly what area of the business you're looking to budget for. Maybe you've got different departments, different locations, different projects you'd like to budget in for. So you can easily pick and choose from the parameters there in terms of exactly where you'd like to budget within the organization. So that's a quick sneak peek here of a granular budget. And what I'm going to do now here is quickly show you a more common scenario at the GL level, which is giving you that capability to budget not just at the GL level here specifically, but you've also got details that you're able to apply to this form. So specifically within this form, I've got a pre-populated budget here already, which, as you know, will always make my life easier because I can just go ahead and tweak what I've already populated in here. I can pull up any historical data. So anything that I want that might help me with my budgets in terms of history, any different types of versions I'd like to bring in, I can pull those here. Additionally, I can also put in any comments here to the right, which I've included as part of this template. So if there's any variances that I see right away, I should be able to easily add in some comments associated to that. As and when I'm doing my budgets in here, I can also see some cells here with the red triangle, and these mean that there is some more detail associated behind this number. So aside from giving you that capability to budget just at the GL level, when I click into this line item details prompt here at the bottom, I can see that I can break this detail down by anything really. I'm using vendor here as an example, but these could be any free forms that you want to be able to include here in terms of details that you want to set for the budget. So there's a lot of different tools here that you're able to use specifically when you're budgeting directly within the tool. Both at the GL as well as the granular level. I've also set some thresholds here with these variances that we can see with the red and the green cells. And in my case, I've set up a flag to specifically show that I'm a 20% over or under what I had previously budgeted for in those specific areas of the business. So this is a really good indicator, just giving me some quick insight here into being able to see if I'm good or bad really with my budget. And here at the bottom, I've got a little analyzer as well where I can see trends for any specific account line items that I want to pull in from my drop down here. Currently, I have it for the expenses, but I can specifically, for total expenses, but here I can specifically say that I want to see some impacts in terms of any analysis that I want to do as part of the process. All right. So this here gives you a good overview of both the areas of the budget. And Solver has a built-in workflow piece for you to be able to automatically distribute these budgets out that you're sending over to those users who need to come in and budget. And finally, the last thing I'm going to show you here is once those budgets and forecasts are complete, you're able to build all of those reports that you want to build from within the tool. And that could include your financials. It could include any operational reports. In this case, I've got a variance report in here. I can go down to my GL detail to see what the specifics are. And I can also drill down into the transactions that are coming from Acumatica as an example. I'm using that as an ERP here. So you can see that I can drill down into those transactions as well to gain some greater visibility. All right, so that was a quick sneak peek of the Solver platform, just so you get an understanding of how everything works in the tool. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here again, move to our PowerPoint, and wrap this up. All right. So it must be shocking to you all that how I haven't mentioned AI yet, except the first slide as part of the presentation. So here it comes. Last month at our annual user conference, we've announced our first AI initiative, and that includes a suite of intelligent agents that will function for you as specialized agents. We've got our help agent already available, which acts as an intelligent guide that's trained on all of the Solver material and the documentation and continuously really learning from the new material. Coming soon, we've got 3 more agents. So we've got the planning agent that will generate forecasts and budgets for you based on historical trends. We've got the analysis agent here that elevates data analysis by offering you deep and proactive insights. And then we're going to have a task agent, which is going to be that intelligent productivity partner for you, which will automate some of those repetitive tasks and it'll really anticipate any user needs that you may have. So stay tuned for all of those AI agents within Solver. And the last thing I want to mention here is that even though Solver is industry agnostic, we do work within different industries across the board, and we have some specific accelerators to best suit your company's needs. So currently, we specialize in those four industries that you see here on the screen. And so there's a software as a service, construction, nonprofit, and senior living. So scan the QR code there, top right, to just view all the industries that we specialize in. And this last slide here that I'm going to leave you with, if you want to just scan this QR code here, is to access the full white paper for our budgeting best practices. And there's a little sample budget calendar in there as well for you. All right. So thank you so much for attending today. Donna, I'm going to see if there's any questions here. I'll stop sharing, but if there's any questions that need answering, we can take them now.
There are a couple of questions. I do think we're at our time, so we might have to answer those offline.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Have a great day.